Hello, welcome to my first YouTube video on this platform. I am joined by a fellow Rocket League coach, Shiger, and a bit of an introduction to me. I'm sure he'll introduce himself in a second. I've been a Rocket League coach now for the past 1.5 years. Been in retirement now, or kind of closed behind, and not been in the scene for the past year and a half. However, I have come back and started coaching this roster you see before you of Haven, Verify, and Freddy. At the moment, we are trying to compete in RLCS and look for high-level results, whether it's in performance or in other aspects.
Hello, I'm Shiger, the aforementioned coach here as guest. Um, I've been coaching Rocket League for about 20 months now, since February of 23. And my roster is Chronomia, MD, and Slothy. We, with our previous rendition of this roster, managed to hit top 17 in LCQ. And we're looking to do more of the same and then improve off of that for this new coming season. Um,
Nice having you here.
but yeah, thanks,
Uh,
mate.
so if we go on to the first topic then, and I think the biggest question that we're going to talk about is definitely the mentality of esports athletes in players, because what a lot of people discover is that there's a lot of performance videos out there to help teams, but there's not really much mental. So I think the best place to start is talking about what is the mentality approach between your average player or a player that's trying to go pro and an actual pro player itself.
Oof,
So do you have
I love
any
it.
comments on that?
Do I? So, um, here's what I've noticed from my time that I had back at Lotus 8 and then my early days at Team Ascend versus what it's like now. So, my earlier days when I had like 1600 to 2000 rated rosters, where they're good players, like they are good players,
Yeah.
but they just don't have that consistency in their game yet. One of the biggest missing keys, especially for the 2000 rated players, is just confidence in general.
Yeah, I would agree.
They they heavily lack the confidence to just go for it. Because then you look at their peak plays, and like 2000 might be the rank where you start to see all of those like crazy clips start
Come
appearing,
together. Yeah.
where someone hits some triple flip reset off the ceiling or something like that, and you're just like, okay, you definitely have good mechanics. Like, you could see this kind of a play at pro level. Now the question is, why don't you do it more often?
Yeah. I
Why
think
don't
I
you
have
try it?
there's also like a big realistic thing, even outside of Rocket League 2, is generally the factor of I think the environment that these players are in when it comes to the mentality of it. Because I think if they're in a very relaxed and calm environment where they're growing around people that don't really have the desire to go pro, I feel like instinctively their brain follows along with that idea. So they're like, okay, I'm good at this game to go pro, but because there's not really anyone around me that has the same focus as me, I want to just go back to that generalization of, okay, this player's not doing it, so I can just follow along and be more comfortable. And I feel like a lot of these players, even in many games like Overwatch or Rocket League, for example, is the main one, when you're at this level and have an actual professional environment, I think that's when the mentality of going pro starts to change, because you're getting like professional coaching, you're in professional environments and strict routines that all pro players follow, and they didn't really have that structure beforehand. So I think that's one thing for me that I definitely understand, and I have fought to give to everyone that I have coached beforehand.
For sure. I actually had a player that I coached before, and funnily enough, he's a friend I'd known since before my Rocket League days. Um, Back at Lotus 8's academy, we had a moment where one of our players left us in the middle of a season, like during a tournament,
Yep.
and we needed an emergency sub for the rest of that tournament. So I called on him because I knew he was still pretty decent at the game. And what's funny is he'd been doing really well since well before I had picked up the game yet. So I I contacted him. He managed to slot in, but when I looked, I mean, like, it was very clear he hadn't been playing the game for like 2 years or something like that. I think he told me.
Yep.
So when I asked him why he stopped playing the game, even though he said he still loved the game, he literally said it's because I had no one else to play it with.
Yep.
And there was nobody, the guy that he used to play with stopped playing. And it was literally exactly what you said.
Yep.
He was a player who I think he hit like GC2 or GC3 within, I think it was GC2, and he hit it within like 800 hours of playing the game.
Yep.
Like he was flying up the ranks, and then by like hour 2000, he stalemated at like GC3 ish, GC2, and just stopped because he didn't have that extra guy like pushing him mentally to go forward.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and I think a lot of it as well, like externally, because I feel like normally a lot of these players have a duo, or especially like a lot of pro players, they'll be like, yeah, you got a solo queue. But I feel like at this level, a lot of people are entering the scene now as a duo or a freeze team, right? Or trying to be
right.
more long term. And I feel like externally, there's that bit of loneliness in a player that is like they lose motivation when it's for themselves because they only see it in themselves because a team thrives off like really high motivation when they see the whole team improve. And if he just sees himself, that drive of loneliness away, it's only himself kind of brings him away from the game because it's not just about him, but seeing only himself improve and nobody else around him, or if he has no one else around him, it's not going to really motivate him to play the game. And I feel like because of that reason, it also brings the other factor of, yeah, loneliness is a big impact on esports. And that is a reason why a lot of people do try and get to that level in professional as well, because, they're a team, they're a family kind of thing at that level. So they kind of fix that loneliness factor and get that kind of result that they want at the same time.
You said something about a lot of people are coming up as like duos and all that.
Yeah,
I found that at this rank that we're at, these people that want to try to go pro,
yeah,
I feel like yes, they had those. They have a large period of time where they stick with a duo or something
yeah,
as they climb the ranks. But the second that players are reaching, 23, 2400, and they know for a fact they're good enough to try to
yeah,
go like professional, they're they're effectively ditching who they have
yeah.
in chase of any better roster they can achieve.
I think
Which,
I agree with you. Sorry for cutting you off, but I feel like that is you'll kind of see later on, but the bridge between a player, because I think you would agree with me if you've ever played yourself or played or try to get any game competitively. You'll always play with someone until you feel like you get to the point where you could go professional. And then when you're at that point, then you bridge away from that duo factor and try and get the best result possible. But at the end of the day, that would have never been possible if you didn't have that kind of motivation alongside you, playing with you all the time.
yeah, that's fair.
But
Um,
that bridge across is very important to build that factor because I would think a lot of these rosters now, like looking at it, even looking at Chronomania and D and Slothy, right? If they probably had duos before, would they be at this level now if they try to do it all solo here from the very
Probably
beginning?
not. I mean, sure, their talent would be there, but I'm not so sure that they'd have a lot of the foundations right now. I know
Yeah.
for a fact. I happen to know who ND's double was for a very long time.
Yep.
Um, he had Mijo as his double for
Ah,
almost a
right.
full
Yeah.
year, and Mijo was our previous third. That was for LCQ.
Yeah.
Um, that really helped MD kind of develop how he plays right now.
Yeah.
So very useful tool having that double there. I know Chronomia had a double once upon a time, but he's actually been around for so long that I can't even tell you who it is because it was literally over 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's just been bouncing between team to team, and now he's found a home with us.
Yeah.
So
And like we've mentioned, like talking about the mentality of esports players between bridging that path to pro and actually being a pro itself, we've discussed very like high good factors as well and good key points that maybe a lot of players don't understand. And I think for anyone that is either watching this or has a path to go pro, what would be your one advice on like the mental factor of what you would tell a player that they don't really put as much consideration into when they should really look at it more?
when you make a mistake, how do you react to it? One of the biggest things for me when I was coaching anything between the 2.2K region, especially, good God, it
Yeah.
felt like every 2.2K player I ever coached had the same problem. It
Yeah.
was they'd make a singular mechanical mistake, and they would literally put a like they would shoot themselves in the foot effectively, because every time that they would make that mistake, their mental would go down the drain.
Yep.
They would look at themselves as if they just like stepped on their dog. like so one of the biggest things is you need to know how to properly assess your failures. When you
Yeah.
make a mistake, you need to remember there are 5 minutes on that clock. When you make a mistake, you've effectively made something happen for maybe 2 or 3 seconds.
Yep.
After 2 or 3 seconds, you can make a change. You can make something happen.
Yeah.
So there is the biggest thing for me is people at these tiers need to learn the power of positivity, is what I'll call it.
Yeah. I'll
Because
agree.
it is so lacking in Rocket League. I mean, Rocket League is famously toxic. Famously toxic.
Yeah.
So it's no wonder if you're solo queuing and someone like just starts trash talking you. Yeah, okay, I get it. That means you have zero room to trash talk yourself.
Yep. And I
So yeah.
think more for me, if I had to give one advice too, is actually be more on tournament sites because the place that players become pro is obviously going to be through tournaments, right? And I think a lot of the mindsets for players is that as soon as they lose in uppers and they go to lowers, they think it's an end of all. Like they think it's just over. And the amount
Yeah.
of times that I've seen really good teams that can perform better go through lowers and instantly start fumbling it because they always think, oh, it's an ends meet and it's just, we're in lowers, it's just over. It's never the case because, like you said, but in a more of a tournament factor, there's still more time to play, and at the end of the day, there's more teams. You can still get the result you can, just fight for it harder because at the end of the day, losers bracket or lower bracket runs are generally, for me, more impressive to fight through than a team going through uppers because, there's more on the line, there's more risks. And at the end of the day, I feel like if you win through losers and knowing you've had to play more, I feel like it was more deserving. So for a lot of players, if you get into that loser situation, just play like it's the start of the tournament again. Play like it's game 0, series 1, because it's not over until you are out. And if you fight hard enough for it, it will never you'll never be out because a lot of the best teams in either Rocket League or Overwatch that I've seen that have gone through lowers, they have won tournaments because they have gone through lowers.
Yep.
Yes, it's been a harder run for them, but they still played it to the best of their ability, even though the circumstances were so much more riskier. So
Yeah.
take that like kind of motivation to win it all, because if you're in that situation, of course you want to win it. Of course you want to prove something. So show them what you can do and prove everyone wrong.
Yep. Along those lines, I know that one of the big things that I always bring up when my team ends up ending like if we go to lowers, um, at least whenever we lose a series, like in tournaments,
Yeah.
one of the things I make sure to bring up, if that's not the last series of the tournament for us and we have more to play for, you just remind them, is our tournament over? You don't tell them, "Hey, our tournament's not over," by physically saying the sentence.
No.
You ask them so that they can think for themselves.
Yeah, you've always
Because
got to make them think.
what I so I'm gonna bring a bit of information in from a different source.
Yeah,
I am also a licensed I'm gonna say football coach. I know I'm American and I could call it soccer, but for the sake of most of this viewership, I'm assuming you're European.
yeah,
Um I'm a licensed football coach back in the States. And one of the things I've been taught is one of the biggest things in the development of players is you need to make sure that they're the ones thinking for themselves, not you thinking for them.
yeah,
So you do this thing called asking guided questions.
yeah,
And that's exactly what that kind of thing is. Is our tournament over yet? If they realize, yeah, no, we still have more to play for, they're gonna be playing like they still have more to play for in that next series. It's not just, oh, it's Jover, we're so dead. No.
no.
They usually come back.
It's not over until that tournament says it's over.
Yeah.
And I think, and you'll probably see this from a Rocket League perspective, but one mental factor that I think why there is not many new talents in this scene is autopiloting. Because a lot of coaches, right? And this is not to hate on like any other coaches or hate on those people, right? But even at this level, the amount of autopilot that I see sometimes, I'm questioning why it's there. And when I see a lot of people, I'll bring up one of my players, Verify, for example, right? He used to expect me to give answers, and that wouldn't work for him only because, that's how I would interpret it, and that just gives him more of a reason to autopilot. And going back off your kind of point where you're like guided questions, by giving those kind of guided questions, it allows the player to understand it and interpret it in their own way so that they can improve it. And yes, if it's wrong, we will guide them on a easier path so it's lined for what we want it to be. But by doing that, it allows them to concentrate and keep playing and keep thinking about what to do consistently instead of being like, oh yeah, I need to do this because he's told me to do that. No, it's more of I need to do this because I've answered this question like that, and I see that I need to do that. So I'm going to start working towards it. And it removes that autopilot mindset into more of a growth mindset into improving instead of just fixed. Because that fixed mindset is what stops players from naturally improving and I think pausing their progress as much as it could be developed even further.
100%.
Do you have any further comments to add
No,
on to
I
that?
mean, you nailed that one right on the head.
Yeah.
I mean, between that and players not knowing their own real mental, like,
Yeah.
I feel like those are the two biggest factors right now that are like killing players from going up. North America famously has quite a few players right now that people have been labeling like the next up for a
Yeah.
while now. I want to say for like 2 or 3 years. I want to say 2 years.
I would think
Top's been at it. Wavy's been at it. Some of these other guys that are around, they've all been like that next up group, and then they're not really going anywhere because something between their mental and some other factors we just don't know yet. I can't tell why they're not progressing deeper down the list. Wavy's gotten to the point where he almost made a LAN. In fact, he played at one with Worlds with the fifth seed Shopify. But when it comes to those, it's like they've been expected to do more than that, and they're just not getting there. And it looks like it's a mental thing to me.
I would think the main reason for that is because they're not actually pushing their boundaries, if that makes sense. Because a lot of players will kind of know what they're capable of doing, just like pro players, and it's in everyone. We've seen it, right? You can see it from your point of view, and you can see it in even pro level. They play to what they're comfortable with. But even looking at the top players like Zen and Monkey Moon being a very famous one, even though for his level of kind of skill is being very kind of degraded for what it actually is.
Oh yeah.
Those players are actually at that level and they're always rapidly improving because they're allowing themselves to push their own mental barrier. Even if it's like, oh yeah, I can't hit this like triple reset, for example, but they're instead of going, I will never be able to hit this, it's like, I won't be able to hit this yet. And
Yeah.
by kind of having that mindset approach of players, even at this scene where they're like, oh, I'm awkward here, but instead it should be like, oh, I may be awkward in this situation, but how can I allow myself to not be awkward? And getting that mindset to kind of grow and in these uncomfortable situations in those areas, what can they do to be better at it? Because being in these awkward situations and places that they don't like being is actually where you're going to see the most improvement because those are the places that they haven't trained a lot.
Yep.
So even you see it in pro play, and a lot of these pros, I think, if they push their mental barrier, I mean, obviously they're pros, right? We're not gonna diss them too much or degrade them as much as they are because they've had their entitlement, they've deserved that. But there's always room for improvement on the fact they can probably push themselves a lot more than what they realize.
There's that. There's also a point where we have to realize how much of how many of the pro players are really just people that are playing because they know they're good enough for being a pro. Because I know there's actually quite a few in probably I would assume Europe has their own share of those guys, but I know for a fact North America is plagued with like 6 or 7 guys that are more than good enough to be pro, and then they just don't have that drive to really improve dramatically.
NA has more notable people. You got like Squishy, you got Garrett, prime examples.
Yeah.
Even Rattles not so long ago retired, and even before then Arsenal. All of those players still are like top leaderboard players, and still even some of them now being better than what they were when they were pro, in my opinion. They could still do that, but yet again, it's that drive to do it. And it's not because of their skill anymore. And I think we're getting to the point where we can't really say skill is the main issue in this game anymore, because at this level, everyone's skill is near enough the same, right? And what they can do, they just choose not to do it, maybe. At this level now, it's all about the mental factor and saying, do I really want this? And how bad do I want to achieve this? And if they can answer that question honestly and know what they want and how they can achieve it, that really does answer a lot of questions in how to go pro, and that answers a lot of their own questions if they are ready for it and ready to make that change.
Yeah. Again, something that I've noticed amongst the players right now is when it comes to those guys that really want to go pro, the biggest gap between pros and them, it's all mental. It's not the skill. It's not the mechanical skill. Their mechanical skills are there. Sometimes it is rotation based because there's some stuff you learn in rotations from pros that you cannot learn anywhere else.
No.
You just have to be there to learn it. But a lot of these guys, they come in with plenty of skill rotationally. They just don't have the mental to back themselves up, where they make these. It's not even that they'll make mistakes, it's that they won't do the optimal play purely because they don't believe in it. And it's actually quite. I find it a little bit comedic how I've been able to show some of the players, hey, dude, just go for it.
Yeah.
Just go for it. I just gave MD. This is going to be my one player example from my roster. MD's a guy where he has all the mechanics. He has all the skills to be able to do what he wants. Except the only reason he isn't a pro already is because this guy keeps second guessing himself while he plays. And I
Yeah.
think this is like the single number one answer why some players don't make it as a make it to pro
Yeah.
in their career. And it's because they might have the mechanic, they might know how to find the like so-called correct path,
Yeah.
where like they might find the correct rotation, they might find everything right, they might know exactly when to dive for a challenge,
But they just hesitate on
but
it.
then they're just like, but okay, I need a second option for if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, and I'm just like, okay, MD, I'm gonna give you a rule really quick here. You no longer are allowed to think of an option two. You play option one and you play option one. That is it.
Yeah.
Now he now he's a bit of a freak. So
And I think as well, the main thing to go off of that is you're definitely right on the factor of a lot of people think a lot of options, even in esports as a whole, right? Not even Rocket League. I see it when I used to play up in Overwatch and etc. A lot of people, even in FPS games, you see it. They're trying to think of more than one option every single time, and you know, at this level of going pro, not only is it mechanics, but it's reaction speeds, and also at that level, you're kind of understanding that you need to be quick to things. You can't just have multiple options because sometimes you're not even given time to think of multiple options. As soon as you think of something, you just have to do it, right? And pro players, right, even if that kind of solution is wrong, even if that solution is bad, it's their first option and they stick to it. Why? Because even if it doesn't work, they know they can get to the play and they know they're doing it. And I think a lot of players are always trying to think at this level, they're trying to find the perfect option. Even in the replays that we're watching here, you can probably even see it, like them trying to figure out what's the perfect option in each play. Whereas even if they just went for it, even if it was a bad option, as long as they can go for it and they can support their decision on why, that's all what matters, and that's how you get better, and that's how you kind of see the aggression and speed progress. Because at this level, it's not all about getting quicker in performance and mechanics. It's about boosting your game sense and boosting your kind of confidence to be like, I want to go for this ball and I want to do that. And same as in like any other FPS games, being like, I want to do this decision. Why? Because I thought of it and I felt like it needed to be done because that's what I initially thought.
yep. I do want to say there's something in Rocket League that doesn't exist. I want to say in almost any other game,
Yeah,
and that is pace of play
yeah,
and how it affects their players. So I feel like, and I think this is like widely understood. Pace of play, if you're not fast enough, you simply can't be a pro. You
yeah,
simply can't. There's a level where you have to be fast enough. And the thing is, I feel like there's been a dramatic misunderstanding what creates pace of play.
yeah,
Because some people think it is the physical speed of the play.
yeah,
As in, my car is going 80 kilometers an hour supersonic all time.
yeah,
So I think people have misunderstood the pace of play being fast for I'm going fast. When in all reality, it's just the pace at which you make your decisions.
yeah.
Now,
So
I'm not so sure that people at higher ranks fully have that grasped yet, even now, where
yeah,
the game's starting to develop into these, the pros are starting to settle in. We're starting to see less and less prodigies appear.
yeah,
I genuinely think that Zen and Drali and this bunch from 2 and 3 years ago, they might go a little bit uncontested for the next 2 years or so, with like maybe a few people showing up. I think
yeah,
that new space station roster might be like the one of the few of the group that might be capable of challenging.
yeah,
But right now we've got so many like high level pros that they're just sticking. They're too good not to be here.
yeah,
And the reason is they have their mental game on lock.
yeah,
When you think of mental game, you think of guys like apparently Jack. The guy's known for being just an absolute genius. And look what he did with his Dignitas roster this year. I mean,
Yeah,
that was some
he
brilliant stuff.
yeah, he definitely was a captain for that team. And, even on every roster that he's been on from being with Horries from the beginning, even some teams that maybe as a community we thought was very like, even with this Dignitas roster, we thought, oh, this team really doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of rosters that Jack was with that we definitely thought that as a community, but he always made them work. And why? Because he was just mentally able to put the other players in check and to motivate them to do what they needed to do. And even going away from that kind of tempo and more like what you discussed of tempo of the play not being fully kind of understood. And I'm going to go more in depth of what players kind of understand in tempo of the play and what they kind of misinterpretate. And I think the one biggest point that you'll probably see in other players is the fact that they always believe that tempo of the play or being quick to go pro is being supersonic all the time, being speedy, and always keeping up momentum and not slowing down. That's the one thing that I see, even at the highest of SSL, sometimes, even at the levels that we coach, and even at some pro level. Like, not high pro level, because obviously they have their momentum in check, but I feel like a lot of people that are on that bridge to pro, I think Mech would be one great example, right? Really talented player, really, really fast player too. But I feel like he can only get better now if he understands that speed isn't also about being really fast. It's
Yeah.
understanding about being in the right position and the right time, and understanding that if you're in those positions at the right time, the ball's just going to come naturally to you. And even if you're the slowest player in speed, like in actual just mechanical speed, you're the quickest in the lobby because you're reading everything, which is the main difference to like that tempo pace. It's about being in the right place at the right time and being in these correct positions, in my
You know who
opinion, anyway.
used to be you know who used to be guilty of this? And hilariously, Johnny Boy made a video of him doing this. Banana Head.
Yeah,
Banana Head is famous for this. Where in his earlier days, and heck, even up till last year, I think the video was of a game of him playing last year. He was supersonic. I think it was like 36% of the game,
yeah,
which, for those of you who don't understand the significance of that, the average supersonic percentage of a car during pro play, like during RLCS matches from that LAN, was like 9 to 10%, and he was at 36.
yeah. And the amount of times I watched that too, and I was like, he's being fast all the time. But I have this quote that I don't really hear anyone else say, but it's a really funny one. And I say, this player's doing a lot of something, but it's doing really a lot of nothing. And it's very important to fear that because you may be quick all the time, but that means are you gonna the questions that I have in my mind, especially when I coach my players, I'm like, are you actually going there before the play develops? Are you going there too quick? And then do you have to readjust? And if the answer is yes to all those questions, then you need to slow down a little bit. Because all these players are not just boosting all the time, getting supersonic. You'll see them use wave dashes and sap dashes, and for people that are not Rocket League related, that's just a lot of movement abilities instead of using boost all the time. But even in other games, let's say Overwatch, because that's used to be my background, the tempo pace would just be comp switching whether you're playing dive or you're playing brawl, and that is just really team-based compositions. And even in those team-based compositions, if you play one of those characters too quickly, you don't get the results you want. And it's the same in Rocket League. If one person plays just too quickly for the team, the other team can't adapt, they can't adjust, and suddenly they're in more awkward and worse positions. So
Yeah.
just understanding that tempo isn't about just being the quickest you can and making these just speedy decisions because you can. It's about making decisions that will not only affect the gameplay itself in a positive way, but also gives the best outcome for your team, is really underestimated, I feel.
Yeah. I think something that needs to be developed a little bit more is the instinct to play the game.
Yeah.
Because in the past, um, we've had, and I'm sure many people are familiar with the term the maestro.
Yeah.
We've had those guys that are just like the god tier mechanical maestros. Just when Justin appeared on the scene, when Zen appeared on the scene, we had those guys where we're just like, okay, this was the age of that guy touches the ball, we get cooked.
Yeah.
So
And
the modern game has developed so much past that, and
yeah.
yet I feel like we're kind of whipping back around to now it's about team play, but at the same time, team play is getting read. So what happens when you read the team play? What else gets opened up because of this? So now it's like an intricate game of chess. Do you have the people who are capable of being that maestro, capable of just doing it all themselves if they want to, level player? When they're called upon, can they do it?
Yeah.
And that's another level of this of the mental game that we're missing. We see so many players that after a long series, they can't do it. They try, they know they're capable of it, but they just one way or another their mental fails them
Yeah.
and they don't get what they want out of it.
And I'm going to mention another factor because you're like right on the nail there, like on what you said, and I completely agree with you. But I don't know as you as a coach have seen it, but I definitely have. And another factor of that I see why players with potential, right, or these what we call up and comers in the scene, why aren't they going pro? And I think a lot of that too is they only play when they're perfect. And
Yeah.
a lot of you would probably think, what do you mean by that? If you're at that level, aren't you always perfect? No, not every player is perfect. We're human, we make mistakes. But when we're talking about gameplay itself, we're talking about these bad days and that players, especially when they want to go pro, they're looking to just gain MMR. And by gaining MMR, that means they have to play perfect. So when they're on these bad days, they just refuse to play. And why? Because they're like, oh, we don't want to risk our MMR, we don't want to lose. And if you look at pro players, right, look at these really top level pros, we're going to mention Abject probably a lot because he's a very good example on the mental side of this. And all pros have their peak days. Zen, right, when he first came into the scene, look at him when he peaked, right, best of the best, arguably. I mean, look at the damage he caused. But even when he had those off days, because we all saw that he some days in those events that he did not play his best. But because, in my opinion, they play on those bad days and try and be like, okay, I can hit those on my good days. Let me try and recreate them on my bad days, because the more they kind of bring up that skill level on a bad day, then it gets more comfortable on a good day. Because as long as they bring that skill closer, because I can mention Appjack again, we all know when Appjack has a bad day. We see it because he's a very game sense player, in my opinion. Like, he likes to adapt towards his team. So he's a very adaptable player. So when he has a bad day, it's more noticeable than the mechanical players, right? But because he doesn't like to stop when he plays bad, or from what I've seen on RSS events, because you can't. But because he forces through it and he understands that, yes, it's a bad day, but he's going to play to the best of his ability, he's still at my level or at any level a top tier pro because he's actually saying to himself, yeah, I know I'm on a bad day, but I'm still gonna play it out and perform. Why? Because he's gonna bring that gap of his bad days to his good days closer. So that means the skill is really like you can still notice it, but that skill level is not really that big.
Yeah, definitely. Um Another thing that I've noticed from especially professional mental, there's something about being under pressure that dramatically changes the nature of like how these players play.
Yeah.
How many times have we looked at this is going to be a really famous example here. Look at Falcons. go up against teams like K Corp, especially last year and this year.
Yeah,
Look how they play K Corp, and then look how they play NRG. The style alone changes it, like changes how they play. But even just the difference between semifinals and grand finals is such a drastic change to their mental.
yeah,
And when you look at Falcons play, it was almost like the second they hit grand finals, they got, you know,
nervous.
they got so nervous. At least against NRG, because I know they had their win against Dignitas this year, or well,
Which
2025
was a
season.
really like that Raleigh major, I think it was. I think it was Raleigh.
Yeah, yeah.
They showed the honestly like why they were the best team in the world. But I think as well, like I don't think it's the I think for me at that level, the way I've understood it, it's not actually the mental of it being a grand finals or the money, right? I feel like it's because in their mind as a player, they're trying to prove something to themselves or trying to prove something that they are the best, right?
Yeah.
And for me, if I'm competing or if I when I used to compete as well, it was never about winning the tournament or the money or that aspect, right? It was proving to me that I could be the best in the world or proving to be the best in the region, right? For me, even when I compete in college now, it's for me to, try and be the best collegiate team in Brit. I couldn't care about the tournament or the prize money after it. It's just that. And I think that factor alone is why players kind of get nervous as well, because they're trying to definitely push their barriers to say that they are the best. And if they don't perform to their expectations, they start crumbling after each and every match because it's not what they want.
Yeah. You know who's a guy that I think was really under talked about in the mental game?
Sure.
Joyo. Everyone looks at this guy for the insane mechanical plays he pulled off with
Yeah.
Moist, back on Team Queso. And I mean, yeah, he was the mechanical player, but he's evolved to another level. And I think this is best evidenced by these last two seasons, what he's pulled off with mainly Oxygen and GK.
Yeah.
Oxygen last year wasn't even supposed to be at Worlds. They literally had the classic case of your 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 tournament was actually dead, and you just got handed a second chance somehow.
Yeah.
Like they got bailed out by the Mina 2 seed not being able to play, and they show up and they start absolutely on fire. And I think a large, very large chunk of that was because their mental was just on straight.
Yeah.
They just had their mental game on. And then this year with GK was the 4th seed in EU. Everyone had GK as that one European team you didn't really have to fear that much
Even me, I
in
can
comparison to the 3 juggernauts that Europe had. And then GK made semifinals.
Yeah. I mean, even I can admit I underestimated GK so much this season compared to every other roster, like seeing Vitality have Exotic, Monkey Moon, and Zen, and then
Yeah.
seeing K Corp have Vatira, Drali, and can't remember the other one now off the top of my head.
Exotic, Vatira, Drali, and Atao.
Atao. Yeah. Sorry, Atao. But seeing all of these rosters, especially in EU, was like even NIP having a roster that a lot of people underestimated and then beating Vitality at Worlds. But their run was truly a matter of it wasn't skill for NIP, it was a lot of mental because they had something to prove, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They
Especially
definitely showed
Radosin. Good God. Dude, everyone blamed Radosin when Vitality lost, like, I think it was last year, 2024.
Yeah.
Everyone blamed that on Radosin and Alpha. But, like, the vast majority of it was the memes of Radosin playing for both teams. That was, like, the killer. I can't fathom how much pain that had to be. And then going into the first split of this year with Genomates, and they did that poorly.
Yeah.
Like, everybody thought it was a Redocin thing. I can guarantee that. Then Eugen joins Genomates, and they actually look like a sentient top 4 or 5 roster. And it just made him look so bad, even though you know darn well there had to be something going on. There had to be. Because the second he joins NIP, and you're just like, you're telling me you benched Itachi for this guy?
Yeah.
Are you guys nuts? And then we all get proven wrong, because clearly Redocin had gotten past whatever. There had to be something mental. I refuse.
I think he fueled the hate that everyone gave towards him to be like, I'm going to just prove everyone wrong. Because that's what I've always said to my players, right? Especially a lot of people that could be hated at the top scene. I'm like, you're never going to have a perfect run in going to pro. You're always going to get hated by someone and something. It doesn't matter, right?
Sure.
But use that hate and anger towards what they've given you to prove them wrong, and use it as fuel to get better, because that fuel will never burn out. So if you have that, then your drive to go pro will be even better.
Definitely. I think that extends to pretty much any sport or esport. I don't think it matters really at all. One of the biggest things that I noticed from moving to a different side of things in soccer, one of the biggest things which I find interesting is the mental side of football is actually really freakishly close to something you could see in Rocket League. And that development side, especially the developmental side, is what I'll say. Because once you hit the professional scene, professional football player mental is like scary, because these guys, they're getting paid literal millions to play this game.
Touchable.
Yeah, they're getting when we have statistics like Erling Haaland having, I forget what his pay per touch is. I think Haaland's pay per touch is literally in like £300,000 per touch right now, or something like that. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, when you look at the guy, he's also the top scorer in the Premier League by a margin right now.
Even last year was that. I mean, he's lagging behind a little bit, but last year, especially when he first joined, he was just damaged straight away.
But yeah, I mean, like, when you look at the mentality of these players, they are immaculate. And that's something I think we're missing in Rocket League. I don't think we have a player that is straight up mentally infallible. No matter who he goes up against, they dominate. And I mean, let's go back to the true, like, dominant players. Because I'll be fair, even guys like Haaland today are like a little bit I don't want to say it's mentality. For them, it's really just who they're going up against can sometimes scheme them out of a game. Especially a guy like Haaland, where it's all positioning.
Yeah.
Guys like Messi and Ronaldo, who were downright mechanical demons. The maestros that I was talking about earlier, that's what they were. You gave them the ball, they found a way to score, they didn't care if they had the whole team in front of them. It was just possible. So they would do it. And the thing is, I can't name a Messi or a Ronaldo that Rocket League really has.
Yeah.
Like, in the past, we had Justin. And I want to say now that Zen, as mechanically gifted and brilliant as that guy is, Vitality hasn't had a good season in 2 years.
No.
And I see a good season objectively being your World's performance. You didn't even make playoffs either year. So there's something mentally wrong here. There has to be. And I'm not saying about Zen specifically, but with that roster that he happens to be on twice.
Yeah.
There's something that isn't clicking. And I know this happened to those greats of football themselves, but they come back from it and they end up dominating in their own right after the fact. So I'm very curious if we're going to start to see like a new age of, can these guys really get back to what they were good at? Because there's some players here that they're not doing what we're used to. Joyo, I just mentioned, he was known for being a mechanical mastermind. Is he still great with mechanics? Yes, but it's not what he does anymore.
No.
It's not his. It's not what he. It's not what makes him incredible anymore. Now he's become a much more positionally based player, and it just works. Zen, he was known for, he showed up as a rookie, literally got, what is it, Rocket League's first ever perfect split?
Think so.
And it was with World included. Like, he was known for being an absolute demon mechanically, to the point where they had to name a touch after him. I mean, most of the mechanics that we know today were developed between like 2017 and 2019, maybe 2020. Right around 2021, all those mechanical touches stop, and in 2023, this kid shows up out of nowhere and blows the shit out of everybody.
Yeah. But I think we've covered a lot of these like mental aspects, and I think if we go back to new players, not because we've been talking about pros a lot now. I think if we talk about new people that are entering the scene, with all the points that we've made, what can we kind of justify for these new players to kind of work on, and what do we think that they can do that could instantly kind of improve their game further, even like make them out there like more known? But I think if they have something to work on the mental side that we can give them, I think that will give them a shine of like hope to push them further to having the aspirations of going pro, and even like having that spotlight at a few like main events.
I think you already said a part of it. Play on your bad days.
Yep.
When you play on your bad days, it makes your good days better. And I will say this much. I know I am not a player of the game myself. So I'm not saying this as a player. I'm saying this as an objective statistician, effectively, from this perspective. When you don't play on your bad days, you're discouraging yourself from improvement.
And your gap between your good days and your bad days is just going to be so wide that when you do have those bad days, it's just going to tilt you even further.
Yeah. And I'm going to go out on a pretty interesting quote here. The quote fits brilliantly, but I know I'm quoting Yoda here from Star Wars. The greatest teacher is failure.
Yeah.
Because without failure, you cannot learn what you're doing wrong.
I would agree on you with that one.
If you cannot make a mistake, you cannot learn. Because if you're not making a mistake, you know, I mean, there's no need to learn at that point.
Yeah.
So when you're only playing on your good days, you're not looking for your mistakes. You're just playing to your ego, and that's more on this mentality side. That is something that plagues this game, by the way. How many players have we seen that, despite the fact that they have like confidence questions regarding whether or not they should go for a play, they have this massive ego as if, yeah, I know I'm like the best. And then we're looking and we're just like, okay, results based, you are top 33.
Because I think the main thing that confuses players is that they mix up confidence with ego. And a lot of the people, they don't really have confidence, they have ego. But the players that are the best always have less ego but more confidence because they know they can do it. Just because a player can go, oh yeah, I can do this, and then be like, oh yeah, no, I can't actually, but they have that ego to push themselves to do it. That's not necessarily a bad thing to have, as long as it's controlled.
Precisely.
And I've always said, an ego is never bad unless you can't control it. There's good and there's bad ego. If you can control it, then you'll dominate through any scene that you go through, whether it's in esports or even an actual sport itself or anything in life.
Yeah.
But as soon as you can't control that ego and that takes over, that's when you start seeing a worse path and you go towards routes that you really didn't want to see or ideas that never really were going to work out. And
If there's
that's a lot of
one
people need to control.
100%, if there's one show I really hope no Rocket League player watches, and I already know that we've had some pros watch it because they've named themselves after some of the characters in there. I hope to God nobody watches like Blue Lock. That
Yeah.
whole show is just the direct incorrect interpretation of how to have mental for this. It's all ego. It is comedically all ego. And
So
listen, I get it. If you're watching for, the fun of it, by all means, just please don't take any lessons from it.
yeah. But I think going back with the players' advice is definitely play on your bad days. Learn to push yourself and push your mental barriers on your bad days. But not only
Yes.
that, always say to yourself that if you can't do it now, doesn't mean you won't be able to do it in the future. Have that growth mindset and always think about the things that you may not be able to do now, but if you work on it, you will be able to do. And by saying that to yourself, you'll automatically be more confident in forgoing for these things. Just like, for example, mechanical play. Let's say if you couldn't double reset before, right? And then you had the opportunity to go for one reset, but you say to yourself, oh, I can't double reset, so I'm not going to go for it. But instead, be like, okay, I can't do it now, but if I keep attempting it, it means I'll hit it eventually. And having that mindset to push certain abilities in this game, and not even in this game, even in other games that you might be seeking professionalism in, try and push yourself into what you can do. Because if you think that you can do it, or if you attempt it enough, you will get it. And if you put that in your kind of belief and put that into what you know, you will thrive further than any other player will.
Yep.
Now, I think on the mental side, we've gone over a lot of topics. We have talked for a very long time, and it's a lot of information for a player to take in the time that it's been. Is there anything else that maybe you want to bring up, or do you think this is kind of all of the main options that a player kind of needs, or is it more of a direction for the path to pro?
Honestly, I think this is the stuff we should stick with for now. Because I feel like anything more, and we're just kind of like stuffing their ears too much. I feel like we're already at that point.
Yeah, we
where
probably are.
Because we've addressed more than just for the beginner. So
We've even gone over even how current pros could even adapt this mental. I mean, even if some pros do watch this, which I do hope that maybe it can come across to some professionals, and I really hope they will watch this, because there is some things that they can learn too. And I hope even if they do know it, maybe try and interpret it and see what happens. Yes, it might fail a couple times, once or twice, but you keep trying until you can do it. That's the whole point of it, right?
Yep.
But we've discussed what it's like for pro players and even new beginners, and I'm hoping that with this information that it can be something that they can try and implement, because the amount of times that I would go between each player at the same level, and it's the same kind of mindset for 7 different people over and over again. And hopefully if they learn something from it, then we see this more kind of talent come through. And once that talent seeks through, then there's more opportunities for people to get those top 16s and to get their name out that more. And to have that kind of talent that they've wanted this entire time.
Yeah. I think before we end this, I think we should kind of list off what was the stuff that we said before, just to give us a TLDR at the end, so that if someone's out here, and let's be real, if you've had, I don't know if you've had the younger kids, but good God, some of the younger kids that play these games, they just don't have the attention span to survive an hour and change for a full hour's worth of advice.
Yeah.
So let's abridge right here.
Yeah, so at the beginning we discussed the bridge of a normal player to a pro mentality. And the main points of that was just talking about like your confidence and understanding certain things as well, like whether it's being like that loneliness factor or not playing because you didn't really see motivation in yourself, but just playing it through. Obviously, you mentioned your points as well, but you do want to remind people on that.
Oh yeah. So another thing that goes towards that really big time, um, we need to remember what it's like to actually be fast in this game, pace of play. It's not just fly at ball and be supersonic. It's you need to make the right decision at the right time.
Yeah,
Timing is everything, and just because time with the timing being everything, it's like it's like comedy. You need to have good timing.
yeah,
So not all timing is fast. You don't have to be you don't have to maintain a fast pace of play by being fast. Look at pros. How many times do they have the ball literally stop dead in the corner?
and mostly every single time.
So, um, definitely reminder that pace of play is not a mechanical thing. At least it's not majority a mechanical thing. It is mostly a mental and decision making thing.
Yep, and
Um,
that
I
goes
think you nailed the rest.
Yeah, and I think that goes towards the final topic of how we mentioned saying just, you know, play on your bad days. Don't be scared to grow your mindset. Don't be scared of what you are now, and don't try and fix yourself onto how you play now. Always be like, yeah, I'm like this now, but I'm gonna play on my bad days so I can progress further. I'm gonna have that growth mindset, not the fixed one. You want to grow into new things, grow into being uncomfortable, and grow to be that better player. We gave many examples, Abject being one of them. Obviously, we're not going to go back into detail because we'll be here talking for another hour.
Yeah.
But obviously, for the people that have paid attention to the video, you understand what I mean by saying all this. So that's all the topics we kind of covered in the short form kind of idea. I do want to thank you, Shiger, who is also, you might want to check him out. He is coaching Ascend with some really good results and a really good roster you might want to pay attention for. And as for me being a coach for DSQ, coaching the roster that you currently see right in front of you, we're also trying to be the best we can and show some results so you'll see us on RLCS as well. But it's no hate towards Shiger and his team, no biasry or whatever. I've seen his roster, I know what he's capable of, and the work is showing. So I'd like to thank you for coming along and joining me for today, and hopefully in the future when we come up with more ideas, I would like you to come along with kind of more projects because it's good to have another insight into it.
Thanks for bringing me along, homie. I love being here.
No worries. Thanks for having me. And obviously, this is the first video. It's going to be a bit scuffed. It's just going to be raw. And, well, a bit of editing for bits of cuts, but most of it's going to be raw just to have the natural kind of appealing to it. But I'm going to just sort it all out and then it'll be up there for everyone to see and for all the players to kind of learn and understand things. But I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for watching because it has been a long one. But I'm hoping you all can learn from it, and I'll hopefully see you when I make my next video.